Have you ever looked at someone who seems calm, quiet, and always put together, and wondered, how do they do it? What if I told you that behind that calm face is a mind constantly working, planning, analyzing, calculating every move? Here's a truth that might surprise you. Many self-made millionaires don't start with bold confidence or loud ambition. They start with something else entirely: clarity, discipline, and quiet persistence. And one zodiac sign embodies that more than any other: Virgo. Now, I know what you're thinking. Virgo? The perfectionist? The overthinker? Yes. And that's exactly why they win. You see, what most people overlook is this: Virgo's deepest struggles, like overanalyzing, doubting themselves, or craving control, are also their greatest strengths. When you understand the psychology behind their traits, when you see how astrology connects with real human behavior, everything starts to make sense. In this video, we're going deep into Virgo's inner world, into the patterns that make them quietly unstoppable, and into the life lessons we can all learn, Virgo or not. So if you're ready for something different, something real, stay with me. And hey, if this kind of deep, soul-centered content speaks to you, tap like, subscribe, and feel free to share it with someone who needs to hear this. Let's begin. There's something you should know about Virgos that most people miss. On the surface, they seem calm, focused, neat. But underneath that tidy exterior is a mind that never stops working. A heart that's quietly navigating its own emotional maze. And a soul that's deeply hungry for purpose, meaning, and mastery. You see, when a Virgo feels overwhelmed by the outside world, they don't scream. They organize. They sort. They create systems to calm the chaos. That's not just a habit, it's a psychological need for safety. A way to feel in control when life feels unpredictable. And here's the twist: this emotional coping mechanism often becomes the exact engine that drives them to greatness. Imagine someone who can walk into a messy situation, financial, emotional, professional, and within hours, they've already mapped out a plan. They've prioritized, identified weak spots, built a checklist. That's not just intelligence. That's trauma turned into talent. That's Virgo. But there's something deeper. Virgos don't chase perfection just for the sake of it. They do it because, somewhere deep down, they believe they have to earn their worth. It's not that they want to be better than everyone else. It's that they fear they're not enough yet. And so, they push. They edit. They check every detail, twice. It shows up in their work, in their relationships, in how they manage money, time, even their own emotions. You might know a Virgo who triple checks every email. Or someone who can't relax until the whole house is clean. Or a quiet student who always gets top marks but never believes it's good enough. They're not just being picky. They're trying to prove, to themselves more than anyone, that they're worthy. That they're valuable. That their existence has weight. And here's the beautiful part: when they finally start to understand this about themselves, when they begin to soften the inner critic and turn that sharp focus outward, into the world, something changes. Their self-doubt becomes discernment. Their anxiety becomes structure. And their perfectionism becomes excellence with purpose. But even with all this potential, Virgos often battle a storm inside. They don't always show it. But the pressure to be good enough, smart enough, useful enough, it's constant. And yet, instead of falling apart, they build. They fix. They plan. This is why so many Virgos are drawn to long-term goals. Why they're masters of systems, routines, calendars, spreadsheets. Why they can budget like pros or launch a business from their kitchen table. They turn inner unrest into outer achievement. Take Mia, for example. She's a 32-year-old Virgo who works in graphic design. What started as freelance work at her dining table became a six-figure agency within 3 years. Not because she shouted the loudest, but because she noticed the details that others missed. She replied to every client email on time, fixed small errors before they became big problems, and quietly built a reputation for trust and precision. When I asked her what made the difference, she said, "I just couldn't rest until it was right. And I think my clients could feel that." That's Virgo in a nutshell. Now, think about this. What happens when you have a person who not only sees every flaw in a system, but also has the emotional drive to fix it, and the mental discipline to see it through? You get someone who builds things that last. Careers, businesses, legacies. But it's not just about hard work. It's about why they work so hard. And that why is emotional. Because deep down, Virgos fear failure, not just because it's failure, but because it confirms their worst internal fear, that they're not good enough, that they let someone down, that they missed a detail that mattered. But instead of letting that fear freeze them, they use it. They use it to check the contract again, to study harder, to save a little more, to prepare for what might go wrong, so it doesn't. That's not weakness. That's psychological strength. And most people don't even see it happening. So while the world celebrates loud leaders and bold risk-takers, Virgo is quietly building a fortress. Not from arrogance, but from a deep need to feel safe, stable, and secure. And here's where it gets really powerful. Once a Virgo learns to trust themselves, truly trust themselves, not only do they build success, they build peace. Because they're no longer driven only by fear, but by vision. They stop needing to prove themselves and start choosing what really matters. They say no to what drains them, yes to what nourishes them. And that clarity, that quiet, grounded clarity, becomes their superpower. So if you're a Virgo, or you love one, here's the truth. You don't need to be louder. You don't need to be flashier. You don't need to change who you are. Because who you are is exactly what the world needs. A builder. A healer. A quiet architect of stability. Keep watching, because we're just getting started. One of the quiet superpowers Virgo holds is their ability to separate emotion from action when it matters most. It doesn't mean they're cold. Far from it. In fact, Virgos often feel too much. But they've learned how to pause, to breathe, to sort through the storm inside before taking a step outside. And in a world where emotions can lead to impulsive decisions, especially around money, work, or relationships, that kind of pause is everything. It's what allows them to walk away from a tempting deal that feels just a little off. It's what keeps them from replying to a heated message in the moment. It's how they manage to keep businesses afloat, families stable, and personal goals on track, even when life gets messy. Now think about someone who can feel deeply but still act wisely. That's not just maturity. That's strength built through years of self-reflection. Virgos don't run from their feelings. They sit with them. They study them. And when the time comes to act, they do so with clarity. That's why, in leadership, they're often the calm in the chaos. The one others trust when things get uncertain. Because Virgo isn't driven by panic. They're driven by purpose. But there's more. Have you ever met someone who always questions everything? Not in a cynical way, but with a sharp eye. That's Virgo energy. They don't take things at face value. They want the full picture. They want to understand. And sometimes, this gets mistaken for negativity. But what it really is protection. This inner skepticism, this constant need to analyze, it's a shield. A way to filter out lies, hype, empty promises. It keeps them from getting swept up in trends that fade. It stops them from putting faith in people who talk big but deliver little. And yes, it can slow them down at times. But it also protects their peace, their time, their heart. Let's take a moment to appreciate how valuable that is. In a world full of noise, of shortcuts, of get-rich-quick and trust-me schemes, Virgo's inner critic becomes their inner compass. It tells them, wait. Look again. Something's off here. And most of the time, they're right. It's why Virgos tend to be the ones who spot red flags early. Why they rarely fall for scams. Why they may not be the first to jump, but when they do, they land on solid ground. That caution, that careful thinking, it's not fear. It's wisdom. And when you pair that with their gift for observation, you get something rare. You get someone who sees not just what's obvious, but what's hidden. The small cracks in a system. The unspoken feelings in a conversation. The potential in a project no one else notices. Virgos are the ones who catch a mistake in a spreadsheet that could have cost thousands. They're the ones who notice when a friend is off, even if they say they're fine. They're the first to sense when a market is shifting, when a pattern is forming, when something is about to change. And that's power. Because while others are still reacting, Virgo is already preparing. They're adjusting, repositioning, protecting what matters most. But here's where it gets even more interesting. This minimalist instinct they have, it's not about being cheap or rigid. It's about value. Virgos don't want more. They want better. Better tools. Better choices. Better relationships. They're the ones who'd rather have one great coat than 10 mediocre ones. Who'll invest in a good meal, a reliable laptop, a stable home, not because it's flashy, but because it lasts. This practicality, this thoughtful way of managing resources, it's a quiet kind of abundance. Not loud. Not showy. But deeply fulfilling. It allows them to save. To invest. To build not just wealth, but freedom. The freedom to choose. To rest. To walk away from things that don't serve them. And that's the heart of Virgo's magic. They don't build their life around what looks good on the outside. They build for peace. For reliability. For truth. And when you live that way, clear, intentional, focused, wealth isn't just possible. It becomes inevitable. Because every decision adds up. Every moment of discipline pays forward. Every small choice, every pause, every second thought, it creates a foundation no storm can shake. And as they grow, Virgos don't just create stability for themselves. They become a source of stability for others. Family. Teams. Communities. They become the person you go to when everything feels uncertain. Because even if they're scared too, they'll still have a plan. So if you're a Virgo, or if someone close to you is, remember this. That quiet caution? It's power. That need for clarity? It's protection. That simplicity you love? It's not plain, it's purposeful. You are not here to follow the crowd. You are here to notice what they miss. To choose what truly matters. And to build a life that reflects the deep wisdom already within you. In the next part, we're going even deeper. Because the last 3 traits we'll explore are the ones that challenge Virgo the most. And reveal the most controversial truth of all. You don't want to miss this. There's something beautifully rare about the way Virgos approach their work. They don't just show up to do a job. They show up to perfect it. They're not chasing applause or validation. They're chasing that quiet inner feeling, the one that says, yes, this is right. This is solid. This will hold. That's why their work often stands out, even when they don't try to make it flashy. It's in the way they double-check the numbers. The way they clean up the small details no one else notices. The way they fix problems before they become disasters. This isn't about being better than others. It's about being in alignment with themselves. For Virgo, excellence isn't a luxury. It's a necessity. It's how they earn their own trust. Because deep down, they know, if they can't trust their own effort, they can't relax. They can't breathe. That's why burnout can be a real struggle for many Virgos. They give and give and give. Often without asking for help. Often without stopping to celebrate what they've already done. But here's what makes that kind of effort so powerful. It builds reputation. It builds trust. And over time, it builds opportunity. People come back to a Virgo who delivers. Bosses remember. Clients return. Partners feel safe. And eventually, doors open. Not always fast. But solid doors. Long-term paths. The kind of stability that lasts. Let's look at something else, something hidden in plain sight. Virgos aren't just workers. They're builders. They build systems. They create plans. They refine habits. But even more than that, they manage time like a sculptor shapes clay. While others are busy being busy, Virgo is quietly asking, what matters most? What's urgent and what's just noise? What's the one thing I can do today that makes tomorrow easier? This way of thinking changes everything. Because when you respect time, really respect it, time gives back. It multiplies your effort. It creates momentum. You won't find Virgos wasting hours on drama or distractions. They'd rather be working on something real. Something that grows. Something that makes sense. It could be a personal budget. A side business. A long-term goal written in a quiet journal. Whatever it is, Virgo will show up for it day after day. Even when it's hard. Even when no one's watching. And that consistency? It compounds. That's how they win. Let's talk about money for a moment. Virgos aren't flashy with money. They don't spend to impress. They spend to invest. And I don't just mean stocks or property. I mean investing in tools that help them grow. In books. In courses. In better ways of working. When a Virgo has a financial setback, they don't panic. They plan. They analyze. They ask, what can I fix? What can I learn? And that question, that mindset, is everything. Because most people respond to money with emotion. They overspend when they're sad. They avoid bills when they're overwhelmed. They rush into deals out of fear of missing out. Virgo doesn't do that. They breathe. They calculate. They write things down. They find the leak in the bucket instead of just adding more water. And because of that, they recover faster. They grow smarter. They make fewer mistakes. Now let's zoom in even more. Every Virgo I've ever known has this quiet gift. They see what's broken, and they can't rest until it's fixed. But not just externally. Internally. too. They're constantly refining their inner world. Their thoughts. Their patterns. Their reactions. It's why many Virgos are drawn to therapy, self-help, and spiritual growth. They want to understand themselves. Not to judge, but to evolve. And when that self-awareness is paired with action, something powerful happens. They stop repeating old patterns. They stop chasing approval. They start honoring what feels right for them. And that kind of inner alignment? It shows up everywhere. In relationships. In leadership. In financial choices. In the way they hold boundaries and respect their energy. So many Virgos don't realize how much they hold together. For themselves. For others. For entire systems and families and communities. And yet, they rarely ask for credit. They just want to know that what they're doing matters. That it's useful. That it helps. So if you're a Virgo listening to this, I want to say something to you directly. You don't have to be everything for everyone. You don't have to fix what isn't yours to carry. And you don't need permission to slow down. Your worth isn't in how much you do. It's in who you are while doing it. It's in the quiet integrity you live by. It's in the love you pour into every detail. And when you begin to trust that, when you start building from that place, instead of just striving, everything changes. Your work becomes easier. Your energy becomes clearer. And your success becomes sustainable. We've covered a lot already. But we're not done. Because in the next part of this journey, we'll explore the final 3 Virgo traits. And these aren't just insightful, they're deeply transformative. One of them may even challenge everything you've believed about what it means to be strong. Stay with me. What comes next might just be the most powerful part of it all. There's something beautiful that happens when a Virgo starts trusting their voice. Because for most of their life, they've been the quiet observer. The one behind the scenes. The one who listens more than they speak. But when they do speak, it comes from a place of reflection. From experience. From careful thought. And that's what makes their words powerful. Virgos may not always see themselves as leaders. But their ability to bring people together, to collaborate, to build real connection, it's a natural gift. They know how to create harmony in a team without forcing it. They notice what others need, often before anyone says it out loud. And that emotional intelligence? It turns partnerships into prosperity. Think about someone who doesn't just want to win alone, but wants everyone to win with them. That's Virgo energy. It's not about ego. It's about building something solid, together. And in today's world, where quick deals and fast fame often crumble, Virgos are the ones forming alliances that last. Because they show up with integrity. They follow through. They don't promise what they can't deliver. That's why people trust them. And that trust turns into opportunities. Into contracts. Into referrals. Into real, steady growth. But what really makes Virgo stand out in business? In life, in anything, is their ability to adapt. A lot of people think Virgo is rigid, set in their ways. But look closer and you'll see something different. They're not resistant to change. They're just cautious with it. They want to understand why something is changing. What it means. How it will affect the people involved. But once they get that clarity, they can pivot faster than most. Not because they're impulsive, but because they've already run the numbers in their mind. They've weighed the pros and cons. They've prepared mentally for different outcomes. That's what makes them resilient. Markets crash. Plans fail. Life takes a turn. And while others may panic or resist, Virgo adjusts. They recalculate. They simplify. They move forward with intention. This ability to adapt with grace, not fear, it's one of their most underestimated strengths. And part of why they adapt so well is because they never stop learning. For Virgo, knowledge isn't just a tool. It's a comfort. A way to stay grounded in an uncertain world. They're always reading, researching, asking questions. Not because they're insecure, but because they value growth. Because they know that what worked yesterday might not work tomorrow. And they want to stay ready. That's why you'll often find them enrolling in courses, listening to podcasts, studying something new even after a long day. It's not about being the best. It's about being better than they were before. And this mindset, it keeps them ahead. In career, in business, in personal development. They don't just learn for the sake of knowing. They apply it. They test it. They improve what's already working. And when you do that consistently over time, you become a master. Even if no one calls you that out loud. even if you're still doubting yourself, just a little. Virgos often don't realize how far they've come, because they're always focused on what's next. But take a step back. Look at the way they've grown. The way they've evolved. They didn't get here by luck. They got here by showing up. By learning. By choosing growth even when it was hard. And it's that same mindset that gives them a rare advantage in one final area: data. Virgos and data are a perfect match. Because where others see chaos in numbers, Virgo sees patterns. Meaning. Trends. They know how to read between the lines. To take raw information and pull out something useful. Something actionable. This isn't just about charts or spreadsheets. It's about intuition sharpened by logic. A deep understanding of cause and effect. In finance, in business, even in relationships, this makes them powerful decision makers. They can anticipate problems before they arise. Spot potential where others see noise. And move toward opportunity with confidence, not guesswork. When used well, this skill can be life-changing. It allows them to invest smarter, lead wiser, and navigate challenges with calm precision. It's no exaggeration to say that many Virgos could predict a wave before it even forms. Because they've been watching, listening, learning, always learning. And maybe that's the real key. Not just learning what to do, but learning who they are through every challenge, every pivot, every quiet victory. We're nearing the end of our journey together. But don't go just yet. Because in the final part of this video, we'll dive into the last 3 Virgo traits. And trust me, these are the ones that reveal the deepest truths. The most emotional. The most misunderstood. And maybe even the most controversial. What we're about to uncover might change everything. There's something about Virgo's loyalty that can't be taught. It's not loud. It doesn't need to be. It shows up quietly, again and again, in the way they show up for the people they love. In the way they support without needing recognition. In how they remember the little things you said, even when you forgot you said them. This loyalty isn't just a trait, it's part of their foundation. When a Virgo gives you their trust, it means they've watched you, listened, and decided you're safe. And once you're in, they protect you like family. That's what makes them such powerful partners, friends, and collaborators. They don't just keep promises. They become the promise. Reliable. Constant. Present. In business, this loyalty turns into consistency. In friendship, it becomes quiet understanding. And in love, it's the kind of devotion that builds something lasting. But what most people don't realize is that same loyalty often comes at a cost. Because Virgos will keep showing up. Even when they're tired. Even when they're not being met halfway. Even when the relationship no longer feeds their soul. Why? Because letting go feels like failure. Like they didn't try hard enough. Like they abandoned someone who once needed them. And so they stay. They give. They try to fix what's already crumbling. That's why one of the most important lessons for Virgo is this. Loyalty is beautiful. But self-loyalty must come first. It's not disloyal to choose yourself. It's not selfish to walk away when you've outgrown something. And it's not unkind to protect your peace. When Virgos learn that, when they give themselves the same dedication they give to others, that's when everything changes. And now, we arrive at one of the deepest truths about Virgo. One that's often misunderstood. One that reveals not just their power, but their pain. Virgos are cautious. They weigh every decision. They play out every outcome in their mind before making a move. People call them overthinkers. Too careful. Too slow. But here's what they don't see. That caution? It's not fear. It's protection. It's the result of a lifetime of learning the hard way. Of knowing what happens when you move too fast, trust too easily, give too much. So now, they pause. They analyze. They make sure. And while others may see hesitation, Virgo is actually building safety. For themselves. For the people around them. For the future they want to create. This caution is how they avoid mistakes. How they stay grounded. How they protect their energy. Their vision, their purpose. And yes, it might mean they miss out on some spontaneous adventures. But it also means they don't spend years recovering from reckless ones. That's not weakness. That's wisdom earned. It's easy to overlook this kind of strength. Because it's not loud. It's not dramatic. It doesn't demand attention. But it's always there. In the structure they create. In the lives they hold together. In the quiet way they make the world feel just a little bit safer. So here we are. 18 truths about Virgo. Not just as a zodiac sign, but as a reflection of a deeper human experience. The desire to do better. To be better. To build something that lasts. We've explored Virgo's mind, their heart, their habits, and their hidden strength. But if there's one thing I hope you take from all this, it's that your softness is not your weakness. Your quiet is not your limitation. Your caution is not your cage. It's your power. And it's time the world sees it that way. So if you saw yourself in this video, if you felt understood, if you felt seen, even a little, subscribe to the channel. We're building something honest here. Something thoughtful. And your presence makes it more real. And if there's someone in your life who needs to hear this, someone who's always been the strong one, the careful one, the one who holds it all together, share this with them. Remind them that who they are is already enough. And trust me, this is just the beginning. There's so much more to uncover. About every sign, every soul, every layer of who we are beneath the surface. So stay close. There's another story waiting. And maybe it's yours.